Joining us today. We know that we're going to have a packed house today, and we actually have a number of folks that will continue to join. But without further ado, we're going to get started, and I'm going to get started with a land acknowledgement at this time. We would like to begin by acknowledging the Indigenous peoples of all the lands that we are on today. While we are hosting this event on a virtual platform, let's take a moment to acknowledge the stewards and importance of the lands which we call home. We do this to reaffirm our commitment and responsibility in our relationships with and to fostering our own understanding of Indigenous peoples and their cultures. From coast to coast, we acknowledge the ancestral and unceded territory of all the Inuit, Métis, and First Nations people that call this land on Turtle Island home. Please take a moment of reflection to acknowledge the harms and mistakes of the past and to consider how we are and can, each in our own way, move forward in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. Welcome, everyone. My name is Beverly Lewis Hunt. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm with Career Connections, a division of the Insurance Institute of Canada. I'm pleased to host this phenomenal panel spotlighting Black excellence among some, and I do say some, of our companies. We're such a wide and vast industry, and we know we have a number of great individuals that are doing great things amongst us. Of course, we had to do this event not only on Valentine's Day, but we are actually at the halfway point of Black History Month. So this is a great day. Happy Black History Month to all. And whether you partake in formal activities at your companies or you celebrate in your own ways, please take a moment to acknowledge, to pause, to reflect on Black history, know some of the current and living leaders in our midst as well. This year's theme is Ours to Tell. So we thought, what better day than to have some stories from our own insurance industry and some of our professionals sharing their own stories. Normally we hold off and wait, but as I said, we have a jam-packed schedule, so we're going to dive right into things. I did want to first off acknowledge and would like to thank the General Insurance Human Resources Group and their Diversity and Inclusion Working Group for being such active and supportive partners with this series of Voices of Inclusion. Our members have been actively promoting this event and helped us source this great panel. And in addition, this has led to over 300 registrants today. Now, we know not all 300 are coming, but that is a great registration list. So we want to thank our team. The format today is we're going to start off with our panel. We know that the conversation is going to go long. We're going to get a bit off track, but we're going to take it to about 2:10, 2:15, and we really want you all to hang in with us. And then we're going to end off with some deeper discussions, have an opportunity to network in smaller groups. So without further ado, I'm going to turn things over to a very special person. I'm pleased to be joined by my co-host today, Avelia Stewart of Western Financial. I'm going to have her introduce herself and then kick things off with our panel today. So over to you, Avelia.
Thank you, Beverly. Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, wherever you are at. I am Avelia Stewart, as Beverly mentioned, and I am the manager of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Sustainability at Western Financial Group. And I'm pleased to be joined this morning by our panelists, and I'll begin by introducing them. We start off with Jackie Alexander, who is the Underwriting Director at Federated Insurance Company of Canada, and followed by Tafuma Garaba, who is the Underwriting Account Associate at Middle Market at Zurich. And then we have Tina Sale, who is a Manager of Change Management at Travelers. We also have today with us Zakaya Guayo Payne, who is the Director of Alberta and Petline Pricing Personal Insurance at Affinity. And we have Sheldon D. Williams, who is the Chair of the Canadian Association of Black Insurance Professionals. Welcome. And so we want to start off today's panel discussion by asking all our panelists to chime in and give us some insight into where they're from and their heritage, as well as how do they identify as a Black professional. And anyone could start off. We could probably start with you, Jackie.
All right, thank you, Avelia. Good afternoon or good morning, everyone. My family heritage is from Guyana, so I'm a proud Guyanese. However, I was born in London, England, and then my family moved to Canada when I was 8. So the majority of my life, I've been living in Canada. Thank you.
Sakai, would you like to chime in next?
Yeah, sure, I can go next. So good morning or good afternoon, everyone, depending on where you are today. So my name is Sekeya. My background is from Ivory Coast. It's a country in southern coast of West Africa. I was actually born in Canada, but when I was 4 months old, my parents moved back to Ivory Coast. So I grew up my entire life pretty much in Ivory Coast and came back in Canada when I was an adult. So been living ever since in Canada.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tafuma. I was actually born in Zimbabwe. I came to Canada as a refugee in 2001. And I've been working in insurance for about 3 years now, but it's very exciting.
Hi, everybody.
Morning, everybody. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay, Sheldon. Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. My name is Tina, and I was, as my mother likes to say, barely born in Jamaica. We left when I was 8 weeks old and came to Canada. And yeah, so I am Jamaican through and through, and love it.
Please go ahead, Sheldon.
Morning, good afternoon, and good evening, as my elders would say. My name is Sheldon D. Williams, Chair and co-founder of the Canadian Caribbean Association of Halton. The only one in my family not born in Jamaica, although very strong Jamaican heritage. Really looking forward to the session today, and wish I had a piece of jerk chicken here with me to enjoy these great discussions that are happening.
Excellent. So we want to take you back a bit, and I would love to get all the panelists background, and for you to shed some light on what were your experiences like growing up. And any one of the panelists could start.
All right, I guess I'll start again too, Vilia. Thank you. All right, so as I mentioned, I was born in England. So growing up in England and in Canada, most of my life, I've grown up in white communities. So growing up as a child, I was very shy, actually, and I was always afraid to say certain things in public for fear of being laughed at. Even things like simple things like words, like culturally words that are different. I had to stop and think before saying it because what are they going to think, if I said something differently? So, and there was things that you wanted to do to fit in during those times. But, growing up in a strong Black family, my mother and my father would always try to instill, confidence in us and try to tell us to be, secure in who you are. Those were words that I know my mom would always try to instill in us. But, as a child, you always want to fit in, right? And so my family was a part of, Black organization. So during those times, on weekends, those families, we'd get together. And so I think that was when I started to get my confidence and my voice, because I was with people that were just like me. And so I could be myself. And I think back now that I think if it wasn't for that, I probably would still be that shy person that I was back then. And I remember my parents, again, they'd always say, you're going to have to do a lot more than your counterparts. You have to do 100 and give 110%, in order for you to get ahead. And so I know it's because of that upbringing and those words, that's who I am today. So thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. Thank you for shedding some light on that. Sakaya, do you want to, fill us in?
I can go next. Thank you, Avelia. So as I mentioned earlier, I grew up in Ivory Coast, and really, if I had the word to describe my growing up, I would say very disciplined, because from a teacher, mother, and my dad was a doctor. So really, they were very strict in the way that they raised us. Education was very important for them. So studying was really something that you could not mess with when we were at home. And also being among the oldest of a 12 children family, I also had to learn what it is to have responsibility a little bit earlier. And so that really helped me. And this is really what influenced a lot of what I love in my work. So being able to be a leader to others and influence them and guide them is something that came from the way I was raised, because I did that at home with my younger brothers and sisters, where I had to take care of them, making sure that everything was fine. And I find it again in my current role. I love it. It's natural to me to help those develop and save a career. So that's the memory I have from growing up.
Yes. It comes almost like second nature.
Exactly.
Yes. Any one of the other panelists want to shed some light on their growing up experience?
I can go next. So as I mentioned, I was born in Jamaica. We left when I was 8 weeks. My father was white. My mother is Black. So I am biracial. Both of them were born and raised in Jamaica. And when we moved to Canada, we did surround ourselves with and immerse ourselves within a Jamaican community. So I was surrounded by Jamaicans as I was growing up. However, being somebody who is mixed race, outside of the community, if people didn't know that I was Jamaican, it is not the first thing that comes to mind when they see me. I don't look Jamaican. I don't sound Jamaican. So that's been a little bit of a, it's not an issue, but it's something that you have to adjust to, right? You're constantly kind of having to kind of identify yourself as to what your background is. I don't look it, I don't sound it, right? Having said that, though, I am fiercely proud of being Jamaican. I think the Jamaican accent is one of the coolest accents out there. I am so proud to say that I come from the country where reggae came from, jerk chicken. So Sheldon, next time we get together, right? And the fastest man on earth all came from Jamaica. So, and again, fiercely proud to be from there.
Excellent. Thank you, Tina. Sheldon and Tafuma.
I'll jump in here.
Next. Okay.
Yeah. So to echo Tina, in Jamaica, they'd say you're brought up, see. So how you were brought up. Very disciplined family, very much so. Like trying to find the name there on the screen. Where did you go? Lexicaya. Very disciplined on education and focused on kind of surpassing your counterparts because you're Black. Mixed race as well, but multiple. So I won't get into all the different mixtures that are in this melting pot. However, growing up as a child, it was very disciplined household that said you have to do one step better than your counterparts because you look different. And that has built a very strong work ethic in me, and wanted me to change that so that my children didn't have to work extra hard just to fit in with everybody else, which is why we have the association KBIP that we started for Black insurance professionals. I'm also the vice president of the Canadian Caribbean Association of Halton. So in terms of, downloading the experiences that I have, my son and my daughter are very involved in the community as well. So trying to bring more of a harmonious approach to parenting, with giving my children more of an exposure to all different cultures, all different backgrounds, race, religions, and such, to make sure that we are all on the same page. So when we have meetings with our friends and family, it looks like this screen as opposed to just like one particular box.
Excellent, thank you.
And for me, I primarily grew up in Toronto. I came here when I was about 8. And I grew up in a variety of neighborhoods here in the city, but I think we can all speak to that similar experience, even being African, that my mom raised me on the idea that, it's up to you. You have to do that work. You have to do that work and then some, and then it's not even a cost, but it's the value of what you want. And I think that kind of attitude has taken me very far. And I've appreciated my Black experience here in Canada, especially I think living in, unfortunately, yes, because I've also lived in Halifax, Nova Scotia. I think it's great to be able to live in a city as diverse as Toronto.
Thank you, Tafuma. And, I could identify with all of the panelists and what they said, me growing up in Trinidad as well. And, having no choice but to be excellent in everything that I did, particularly to break those barriers that existed, right? Those economic barriers. So definitely could identify with the need to be excellent in everything that you do. I want to pose a question to Jackie and Sakaya about what does it feel like to be part of the insurance industry today as someone who identifies as part of the Black community?
Okay, so when I first got into the insurance industry and living in Manitoba, it was a very small population of Black professionals. Over the years, those numbers have increased, but we're still a minority. So because of that, it's so important being in a position that I'm in, is to be able to talk to those youths and those young professionals to see that, you know what, there's somebody out there just like you and you can do it. So to me, that's important. I just want to share, and I'm thinking about something right now that's making me emotional, but something just happened to me recently. There was a young, girl of color that was working with me. And she was leaving our company to go work for another company to become an underwriting assistant. And before she left, she came to my office and she hugged me. And she said to me, Jackie, I'm so thankful to you because you are a great inspiration to me. And you know what? I want to be like you one day. So, for her to come and tell me that, it was so emotional and rewarding. And those are the moments that I feel being in the insurance industry and this profession is to give back and to have those moments. That's what it is for me.
Yeah, it makes it all worthwhile.
It does.
Yeah.
Yes, so for me, it's similar to Jackie in the sense that when I really started in the industry, I was feeling like an outlier, to be honest, because I didn't have any role model from the Black community that I could be inspired by. So I had to kind of build myself to be one, right? Even when I go back to when I started actuarial science studies, I was the only Black person of my class. And it took maybe 3 or 4 years before I could see another one coming into the actuarial school. So it was very, very seldom that you can meet someone that you identify more directly with, right? Today, I think it's a little bit different story because when I look at the younger generation, I see more and more people coming in. And to me, that's great. This is something that I really like about, the evolution of the industry now is no longer a Black person being an outlier because we see more and more of them. Black women was even more rare, to be honest. And now I'm very, very happy that we see a lot of them. So that is a game changer, definitely.
Yes. Any one of the other panelists would like to shed some light or give their take on what does it feel like to identify as a Black professional in the insurance industry?
One story. I always bring this one up because it was a impactful one for me. So I used to work at Echelon Insurance as a business development rep. And I used to do all the different provinces, so all the different, IBAO and SGI and IBAA and so on. And I remember I was at the Alberta Association conference, and there's like maybe 2,000 people in there. And I was just came down from my hotel room, changing from the trade show floor and walk into this big gala, and I'm looking around and I don't know anybody there. I'm kind of new on the scene. And I see a Black guy from way over there. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, you do the typical head nod. And he comes over and he says to me, what would you like to drink? I'm like, yeah, let's go grab a drink. Out of 2,000 people, the only person who was Black there actually worked there. Right. So it was one of those situations where it's like, why is this happening for? You know, statistically speaking, we have to be realistic. It's not as if we are 50% of the population or even 25% of the population, but out of 2,000 individuals in insurance, having nobody there who's Black kind of made you feel like, as Sakaya says, as an outlier, right? Do I belong here? Which table do I sit at? Well, what conversations am I going to engage in that I have knowledge of? So that's, one little tidbit of, the experience that I've had. And then, the other board members on KBIB as well. I think we all have a very similar experience of being the only one in the room for a number of years. But I am happy to see that that's changing. And it's definitely changed. I've been in the industry for 21 years now. It's definitely changed in the past 21 years, and I'm looking forward to more change going forward as well.
Yes, for sure. And for me, what I could say is that, we are here being part of the solution to ensure that we get more Black talent into the insurance industry. So it's good that we're having these kind of conversations and connecting, so we could therefore kind of create that path for other Black professionals to be sourced, hired, and be retained within our organizations as well. And so I want to hand it over to Beverly now, who would lead the next part of our discussion.
Thanks, Avilia. And, being part of Career Connections, that's my jam. When we talk about attraction, we talk about bringing more individuals into the industry. My ears are open, always looking for great groups and partnerships within the community to help us, elevate and bring more Black professionals into our industry. And with that, I did want to bring Sheldon in because a very important partner for us is KBIB. And I'd like him to just give some thoughts just on KBIB, what it does for our professionals, how people can get involved and network. I did want to give Sheldon that opportunity, but before he has to leave us. So Sheldon, over to you.
Thank you, Beverly. That introduction was my jam, so thank you for that. So KBIB is the Canadian Association of Black Insurance Professionals. The idea came about shortly after the murder of George Floyd. That was May 2020. I think we can all agree that the world changed after that. It was no longer swept under the rug. It was no longer a Rodney King situation. This was a systematic issue that had to be addressed. And through this process, we built a great board of directors and a large amount of committee members that were on the same path of changing the narrative, of having these uncomfortable conversations and bringing things to the forefront so we can make tangible change. So in November 2021, we launched official as an association, 9 board members from multiple different areas within the insurance industry. And in the past 12 months, or I should say 12 plus 4, in the last 16 months, we've accomplished quite a bit. In 2020, we had 8 PD sessions, so professional development sessions that were curated by our own David Watson. He's our director of professional development. These sessions tackle things such as how to be a good producer, financial literacy, unconscious biases, microaggressions, things that are very new terminology that people really need to understand where they come from, and coming from a place of love as opposed to a place of judgment. With that as well, we hosted a number of town halls that really gave everybody the ability to come in and chat and learn about what we're doing. Through those town halls, we hosted some very explosive panel discussions that had people from different organizations, different backgrounds, speaking about their experiences, what they've seen and what they want to see differently. We've also, built out our new website, which is giving more access for all of our partners and sponsors. So shout out to all of our sponsors on the line. What up, Tina? What up, Mike? All the people that have really put their money where their mouth is. And what we're doing now is we're actually changing the sponsorship narrative to be partnership. We don't want to just stand there, with a cup in our hand, asking us for money and start asking for money from our partners. We want to actually work together and build something that's actually going to make change. So that's kind of the change that we're doing right now. What we're working on and what we're excited is the second name over here, which is our mentorship program. We've been slowly developing and creating something that's custom for KBIB. However, pulls to the strings of all the different associations and organizations that currently have their mentorship programs. So not going to build it in a silo. And this is to be launched probably in the second quarter of this year. We're just finalizing some things right now, and then we're going to do a little bit of a beta testing before we launch it out to everybody else. We'll also be launching a job board. So working with Bev and Carolyn and, working together to bring forth some talent from a different perspective, a different diaspora, specifically based on our website, and giving, all of our partners and members alike the ability to see different job opportunities from a very specific scope. We have about 130 something members right now, about 15 sponsors all in our first year. So, the support's been phenomenal. We have networking events that happen all year as well. We typically, last year in 2020, we had a summer social that had over pretty much about 150 people that showed up. Free for everybody to come in, very networking driven. So not just grab a drink and stand in the corner, but get around, meet somebody, shake a hand, take a phone number, scan a QR code, whatever it is to get those contact details and then move on. We had our first annual golf tournament that hosted 76. We only were allowed 74. We snuck in a couple more because it was such a great demand. So that was a great event that we raised, I think, $1,500 for African food baskets. And that's taking care of some food insecurities within the Toronto community. We ended the year with our holiday event, which was hosted at Boucan, downtown Toronto, a beautiful Haitian joint. Carolyn was there in living color. We had a great night in that snowstorm. And we raised, I think, another $2,000 that night for African food baskets again. So not only do we want to give back to other insurance professionals, but we feel that it's our duty to give back to the community as well. So these 4 names up here are our 4 pillars. So advocacy, mentorship, education, and networking. #Amen. So every single thing that we do is driven on this path. We do not do no initiatives, no planning, no strategic offsites, do not have these directly built into it. They are 100% our pillars. So how to get involved? www.kbib.ca. Sign up to become a member, sign up to become a mentor, sign up to become a sponsor. Follow us on LinkedIn, follow us on IG, follow us on Twitter. I think we're up to about just shy of 1,400 followers on LinkedIn right now, which is pretty good for the first year out. And looking to grow with that just because they want more reach. Our goal this year really is to really start to make that change. First year was just getting our name out there, getting people to understand who we are, putting on networking events to draw people in. Now that we have your attention, now that we have great partners like Career Connections here, now we want to start leveraging those relationships and getting everybody on the line here to get involved on making change, tangible change within the insurance industry for Black insurance professionals. And this cannot be done without our allies. Otherwise, it would just be a bunch of us sitting around in a room eating jerk chicken and complaining, right? So I think I covered off everything there. What do you think, Bev? Did I miss anything?
No, I think you said it. Thank you so much, Sheldon. And I think, the important part is that it is for our allies as well. So, many people have asked, is it just for Black professionals? No, KBIB is for everyone. It's inclusive. And so, definitely join Sheldon and the cause and look him up and feel free to connect. Thank you, Sheldon, for your time today and for joining us. And we'll make sure you connect with Tina on that food.
One last thing, just to echo what you said there, Bev. Yes, we are a Black-led organization, not a Black-owned organization. I'd say the demographic split of our membership right now is probably 65% who are Black, and then a mix of everybody else as well. So that's the most exciting part that I see at all of our networking events. It's a great mix of all different cultural backgrounds. And that's what we need to go forward. So thank you again for the opportunity, guys. I hope you guys have a great afternoon. And #Amen.
Amen. Thanks, Sheldon. And Sheldon, point before I get to Tafuma, I'm going to ask Tafuma a bit about some of the traction in your own experience. But I did want to make a point. I know that Canada stats, from 2021, Black Canadians in Canada, they're identified with over 300 ethnic and cultural groups. So, and that's to say that we are cut from many different cloths. You look at a Black person, even from our panel that was here today, Tina is biracial, Sakea from Ivory Coast, 300 different ethnic and cultural groups are Black Canadians. And that is great. It's a great thing. Probably the top 4 are Jamaican, Haitian, African, and then Canadians. So I myself, as born and raised in Hamilton, Ontario, with parents from Trinidad, Avilia and I are trying to figure out how we're related. But there's a number of different individuals that make up the Black community. Tafuma, I'm going to ask you, because you have your own experience, and it also brings in Zurich as well. How has your company participated in initiatives to reach out to Black youth or career seekers? And tell us about your own experience.
I think it really, I could primarily speak from my own story, but I joined Zurich through the Zurich Insurance Pathways Program, which was in partnership with United Way Greater Toronto and CEE, Center for Young Black Professionals. And the whole aim was to help participants gain industry recognized credentials needed for like in-demand employment opportunities in the industry. So it allowed me the opportunity to not only find a career, I guess, but a place where I can be upwardly mobile. And I think that is an important thing. But moving on from there, I got the opportunity to be actually the founding chairperson for the Zurich African Caribbean Alliance, along with actually one of my other program participants, Nicole Mangena. But I have found that, I've come into an industry that has or is very focused on what the future looks like. And I feel like I fortunately work for a company that is very focused on action. And I think that is a big thing. I think we all participate in a lot of like conversation, like Sheldon was saying earlier. And me being here, to me, I look at that as a sign of action.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you for that. Tina, if I were to ask you, what's been most rewarding in your career and sharing that with someone that you would, want to attract into the insurance industry, what would you say?
Most rewarding. For me, my role at Travelers is around change management. So ensuring that people are ready whenever we introduce a change. So what I find really rewarding is when something successfully happens that I've played a part in, where I see the people that I've worked with have been successful. I feel as though I have been successful. I don't think that what I do, I think what all others do in terms of working in the industry is it really does take a village. It's kind of my mantra on things. So for me, it's really around what I find most rewarding is not only kind of the tangible things that you've been able to do day to day, but it's with the people that you work with. And knowing that, you can't really get anything done without the people, good people surrounding you. And I feel as though in this industry, people really care about what they do. They take a lot of pride in the work that they do. And that's what I find most rewarding. And then, to hear stories like Jackie, where she had somebody can't come into her office and tell her that, they wanted to be just like her. How much more rewarding is that, right? To have that type of impact on people, not just from a work perspective, but also from a personal perspective.
Sakea, what about you?
Yeah, so I had to rethink my speech because Tina pretty much said everything I wanted to say about the people. But okay, so I pick another one. But really, so the people are great. I can only echo that. I was very fortunate to work with a lot of different talents in the industry, and that really helped shape who I am today. But also in terms of opportunities, this industry, despite I mentioned earlier, I was feeling like an outlier at the beginning of my career, but that's never been a blocker to me developing or progressing. I've always had the right opportunities at the right time. So this is also something that kept me here, because I felt that I was able to advance, grow at my pace without seeing the need to go see what's better elsewhere, because I had pretty much everything in this industry. So that's a lot. And also the influence, really reaching out a point where now I can give to others what I kind of didn't have when I started, which is a role model, someone they can relate to, or a career that they can kind of mimic and say, okay, maybe I can follow this career, is something that I really like being able to share through either these forums or with people I work directly with. This is a very rewarding for me, and that keeps me for sure in insurance.
I think it's very important to know that, you know, in terms of attraction and bringing people into the industry, it's about, you know, being really intentional, doing that outreach, intentional about organizations that we partner with who can also help to bring those individuals into our midst. And Sakaya, you mentioned representation. You know, the more individuals we have like this on the line who are out there sharing their story, through panels, through events, through presentations, through mentorship, all of that is going to, you know, help move the dial. I know that there's differences between also roles. You know, Sakaya, you know, coming from an actuarial background, God, I could probably count on the hands how many actuaries have come up, but absolutely more so now. But there's also difference between brokerages and insurance companies as well. So Avilia, I know that you've had experience, you know, working at Wawanesa and then also now at Western, you know, from a DEI perspective, you know, how would you comment on maybe some of your observations just in terms of attraction?
I think generally, in looking at both organizations, you know, there is an opportunity to do a better job to increase the representation of Black professionals. But now at Western, we do recognize that, and bearing in mind that we're pretty new in our DEI journey, we have been intentional about creating our pillars just to, you know, to ensure that we act on, you know, increasing representation, particularly from equity-seeking groups, which will include, of course, Black professionals. So one of our key pillars in DEI is to increase, diversify our workforce. And so, you know, like you said, Beverly, we are, you know, partnering with community groups. We're being more intentional about where we go to source Black professionals. And, you know, so we're taking active steps to increase that representation, because we know that it is something that is necessary. It's something that we recognize as a challenge and a need. And so we're taking all these active and strategic measures in order to increase representation for Black professionals within Western.
That's great. And, you know, I know that there's work to be done, you know, that the higher that we move up, you know, in companies, as we move up to directors and executive level for all BIPOC communities in general. But in terms of Black executive level representation, we know it's lagging. Avilia, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, it goes back to representation overall. So if there's a lag in terms of Black, you know, representation, I think, you know, of course, there may be that would, you know, of course, you know, there'll be a direct correlation between having, you know, Black senior leaders within the organization. That being said, I think again, we do recognize that there is a need, there's a gap there. And, you know, so two things, I think, you know, definitely having that overall Black representation increase, that would have a direct positive impact on senior executives. And again, being more intentional about where we go to source and recruit Black talent. The partnerships that we form, for example, like, you know, forming partnerships with organizations like the Canadian Association of Insurance Black Professionals and other community groups where Black, you know, that Black professionals or Black persons belong to would definitely add to that as well. And when we go out to recruit, I think we need to be a little more intentional, which we do recognize at Western, about ensuring that we do have the diverse representation of persons as part of that interview slate as well.
Yeah. I wanted to ask maybe Jackie and Sakea, what's helped you grow into your roles over the years, whether that's education, mentorship, professional development, and then I'll pass it over to you, Avilia. Jackie, did you want to start?
Over the years, I've been in the industry for 40 plus years. So those number of years experience, that's definitely helped me to develop and grow over the years. Also education, taking the insurance courses, that's also helped me as well. And in addition, I've had several, mentors over the years. So that's been invaluable to me. And them helping to coach me and guide me in my career has been extremely important. So to me, paying it forward is the thing. And I've been a mentor to others over the years as well. So that's how, I've grown and developed in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And so Sakaya, could you tell us about what has helped you to grow in your role over the years? Outside of education, you could probably shed some light on mentors and professional development as well.
Yeah, definitely. So to me, the biggest goal was the leaders I had all these years. They were they all had the willingness to invest in my own growth and development, and they led by example. So I always tried to be the leader, to mimic those who were my leaders back in the days, because I knew there was a lot of great things they did to help me, listening to what I needed to move forward, helping me with development opportunities. All of that were things that I've seen, and I wanted to replicate also to people that I lead today. So pretty much having different type of leaders, but all were great people leaders. That's to say. So this is something which really helped me a lot. And it's something that, because I've done my entire career with Definity, right? And I didn't have a need to leave, because within the single company, I had several types of leadership. And with everyone, I knew a new style, and I tried to align with their style. So that helped me develop a broad skill set, if I can say so. I was pretty fortunate on that.
Excellent. For me, here at Western, we don't have a formal mentorship program right now, but I was fortunate enough recently to be assigned a mentor from our executive leadership team. And I think that is critical for the work that I do in the DEI space, and of course sustainability as well, which are which has direct links to our strategic work and strategy overall. And that will help, of course, I believe, to add credence to my work, not only to coach and guide me, but to add credence to the work that I'm doing and to further help it embed throughout Western as well. So, I'm really excited about, my journey with this, with our executive leadership professional as my mentor right now. And I'm going to open the floor up to all other panelists, in terms of mentorship and career development. If you've had a mentor, if there's a mentorship program at your company, how have you seen this helped Black professionals at your organizations?
So we do have a mentorship program at Travelers. And one of the things I just want to reiterate, because I think it's so key and so simple in my mind, representation matters. I can't stress that enough, that for people to feel comfortable in their own skin, for people to feel comfortable, whether it's culturally, if you're just looking at it from a cultural perspective, in terms of being able to comfortably speak to people that maybe look like them, that sound like them. That is such a huge, I think, a huge importance around people feeling comfortable within the industry, wanting to stay within the industry or within their company. You know, so I think that having mentors that can help guide you, that look like you, sound like you, is really, really key in employee engagement and the happiness. And also, you know, in terms of trying to get more people into the industry, if we're just talking about the Black community in general, or all different types of people into the industry, having people that where there's representation, that people can spread the word about, you know, how great the company is in that representation and that support as part of your cultural group.
Thank you, Tina. So I'm going to hand it over to Beverly now to take us through as we discuss further about employee resource groups.
Thank you. And I echo that, Tina. And I know, you know, we're always trying to get representation and get people to be voices and be ambassadors for the industry. So I really thoroughly believe that. Tafuma, you have a unique position in that you are the chair of Zurich's African Canadian Cultural Group. What role in terms of the ERG, the Employee Resource Group, what role does that play in helping to promote the importance of allyship in the workplace?
I think that a little bit of the part of the, I think when you think of ERGs, I think for me, it's a safe space to learn that it's okay to reach out. Like you're in a space that, you know, it's not crazy to go outside of yourself to go ask for help from so-and-so who doesn't look or sound like you, come from the same background. But it's also different when I can, you know, you see someone who looks like you, who's the same age as you, same demographic, says, oh no, you should listen to him. I mean, he gives great advice. You know, you should go out and ask him that question. And I think it allows you the space to not only grow, but I think be comfortable. I personally have found that mentorship within my company has been outstanding, and then I'm very appreciative of it. But I think I feel very fortunate that I work for a company where there's so much willingness to reach out and so much, I think, genuine participation that it makes me realize how important it is for that to be spread all across the board.
Nice. Sakaya, I wanted to ask you just about, because you're coming to us from Montreal. So to just give us a little perspective, just not only on the Quebec experience, but also, you know, the ERG programs at Definity.
Yeah, sure. So here at Definity, we have 3 IDEA employee groups, and one of them is called the Anti-Racism and Cultural Equity Employee Group. And the mandate of each EG here is to identify barriers to inclusion in the workplace and also make recommendations for a solution. And they also lead commemorations such as the Black History Month that we're celebrating right now. And for information, the theme at Definity for this year, Black History Month, is the Black experience within Definity and around the world. So they take an approach where they ensure that all Black voices are heard within the company. And also they have selected some employees to spotlight through interviews, which are posted internally and also on our official social media. And I was also part of that. I'm very excited about this opportunity. And it's pretty much the same type of learning or content that we put out there within our internal Black History Month Definity Learning channel. And we also ensure that French content is also added in top of the English version to ensure that Quebec employees are also included in those initiatives. But in all transparency, we also recognize that when it comes to the EG memberships in Quebec, we find the attendance being a little bit lower compared to other provinces, especially if we compare it to Ontario. But really, we are on the journey to continue to find new ways to engage more and more people in Quebec. And yeah, that's why I'm also trying to be a voice to really push the attendance from Quebec folks as well.
Mhm.
That's great, because I always have to be very conscious, being in Ontario, not things are not the same across Canada. Tina and Amelia, coming from Edmonton, Manitoba, are there Black ERGs at the companies you work for, I guess, in your regions? Tina, I'll start with you.
So I am actually the co-chair for our Black and Allies ERG at Travelers. So yes, we do have an ERG. It is a national ERG, open up to all employees, whether you're Black or not. And we don't only have it here in Canada, but we have it across our organization. We're a global company. So we do have these types of diversity networks, and it's not just the Black diversity networks that we have. We have diversity networks across the board for all different diversities, and highly encourage people to join. There's a lot of great information that we can provide, support that we can provide to not only the employees that identify as part of those diversity networks, but also the allies. And I know we're going to talk a little bit about allyship later, but that is really key also.
And Amelia, how about you?
Sure. At Western, we are Canadian, a national company right now, and so many of our offices are in the prairies. We have grown quite a bit in the Ontario area recently. But when we did our first, as I mentioned earlier, we are pretty new in our DEI journey. But when we did our first employee DEI survey, and the data told us that the 5 ERGs that we needed to prioritize for our organization were our Indigenous employer, Asian employees, our parents, our Pride ERG, and as well as our we have a Ukrainian ERG already launched, and the Black ERG wasn't one that came up as a priority. Again, it goes back to representation and how people responded on the DEI survey. So representation, that keeps being one of the big words that we're talking about, the buzzwords for today. And so right now, or let's say, within the next year or so, I do think there would be enough persons who would be interested and who would be engaged around us creating a Black ERG within Western. Even though we've prioritized 5 ERGs when we started on this DEI journey, we did tell employees, if at any point there's, you think that there's a need for us to create additional ERGs, please reach out to me directly or to our to the DEI office to tell us that, so we could support the creation of that ERG. But again, it goes back to what employees told us at the time that we created those first 3. So we have 3 created, and we on the mission to create an additional 3. But a Black ERG is not something that we have right now, and it's something that I think eventually we're going to get to.
Great. For those who are on the line who maybe don't have an ERG, or maybe want to start one in their company or region, Amelia, what do you think, or what would be the steps in terms of making a successful ERG?
I definitely think you need to put some framework in place for the ERGs. For when they start, it's a matter of course, getting those persons who are interested to kick it off. Typically what we do at Western, the process we follow, once we have at least 6 or 7 people who are interested in being part of the ERG to start with, We typically kick those off. We already have of course a kickoff presentation that goes through why they're important, what the role that the various members could play. Definitely, we'll need an executive sponsor, we'll need a lead, and so on. And we provide that framework in terms of every ERG needs to create to complete a charter at our organization at Western, and they need to go through pretty much an onboarding exercise. So they'll be fully aware of what the role they play and how they could add value. We expect each ERG to set up goals for the year, and of course we have dollars budgeted for each ERG as well. So, and that's assigned to them. So whatever they want to execute in the year, given their goals, they could utilize those funding dollars to do that. And of course, check in periodically. It's employee led, but what I tend to do is to attend those meetings. If I can't attend it every month or every 2 weeks, I tend to attend it as much as possible to continue to provide that support and guidance to them. So I think it's a matter of providing the ERG members with the tools and let them run with it, but of course be there for ongoing support and guidance as well.
Great, thanks for that, Avilia. Over to you, because I know we were going to touch base on a bit of allyship, Avilia.
In terms of allyship, we recently kicked off our allyship, communication around the organization. So I was fortunate enough last fall to deliver a presentation to our leaders on allyship. And again, I did it for account executives a couple of weeks ago during our yearly account executives meeting. And we plan to also create an in-house e-module solution around allyship. And, I think the recent presentation that I led for the account executives was a huge success around allyship, because they were able to gather, they were able to understand, I could do this. It's really about taking action, even though you may not always get it right, but it's about taking responsible action. And in a nutshell, that is what allyship is about. Once you are in a position of privilege or power, and you have an opportunity to impact someone else and let their voices be heard, or provide support, or be empathetic, to promote them, to sponsor them, and to mentor them, that in itself is being an ally. And so we are finding that, it's a huge success in terms of people understanding, it's really about taking that first step. And we've gotten a lot of great feedback about the presentations and about the learnings and education around that top allyship in general.
Great. Jackie, maybe to you, what does it mean to you when you think about allyship, or what comes to mind?
Well, allyship, Avilia just said it so well there, right? It's those people of privilege and influence, you may not be part of that marginalized group, but you too can be a voice and support them. And to me, allyship is something that can drive change. I think it's important to have allyship, to, support your coworkers and to give them a place where they feel safe, supported, and, appreciated. So that's what it means to me.
Great. Sakaya, I think we were going to ask you that as well. I just want to get your thoughts on it.
Yeah, sure. And it's really aligned to Jackie's point. So to me, really, allyship is an opportunity to really act in solidarity with all those equity-seeking groups, despite not being a specific part of the group. And to me, this is really an opportunity for community development. So we ensure that as a broader community, there's unity, because we also recognize that those groups deserve, equal chances compared to the most privileged of us. So this is I really view that. And if I go even further of how we can be better allies, to me, really getting ourselves educated about those others groups that we know exist, but we might not be familiar with. So really get an education about knowing them better, what has been their struggle, their story. We also help us really put ourselves in everyone's shoes so that we can be better support for them and act in a better solidarity with them.
Nice. And just to open it up to Tina, any thoughts from your end, and Tafuma, maybe talking as well about, what role does the ERG play in terms of allyship? Either of you just have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I to me, and I loved again what Jackie said about driving change, right? I think that there's so much change that needs to happen. We can't do it in isolation. We need those allies to help us move that needle meaningfully. And and it's not only about kind of being the advocates and the support, but it's also being comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? If you see something, say something. Allyship to me is really around all of these things that everybody on the panel has said, but it's also about having people's backs. And I think that in itself, when we talk about the community of people, the power of people at an organization, people who are marginalized, knowing that they have that other people out there that may not look like them, sound like them, have their back, is so important.
Tafuma?
I can't really speak more on what everyone else has said really here, but like in my own experience, it's allyship that changed my life, right? I wouldn't be here at Zurich or Insurance without an ally whose name is actually Ray Chaya. He used to be VP of HR here as well, but he's someone who was driving change, and he when we had conversations and in many facets would talk about these are things that I didn't understand, and then it's okay that I can say that, I can have this conversation, I can let you know that I'm actively thinking about my experience and how it relates to you, and not me as a person, but my experience and how it relates to me as someone who doesn't look like you. And it made me feel comfortable in a space that I can reach out to other leadership, like other people on the leadership teams here to say, hey, can we have a chat of coffee? I just want to get to know you. And to me, like allyship gave me that kind of confidence. And I think that's very important.
Avilia, I jumped into your allyship. You have thoughts on that. I know we've talked, and please share.
For me, I've experienced, like Tafuma mentioned, to get to, where I'm at right now, I've experienced a lot of allies, tapping me and supporting me and, giving me that voice. Sometimes, let's be honest, when we don't see a lot of representation and a lot of persons that look like us, sometimes we tend to be silent, or, we don't feel psychologically safe. And I think that's where our allies are critical to give us that voice, to give us that confidence to speak up, to showcase our work, and, just to be sponsors, right? Overall. And I think that's where allyship is very, very critical, particularly for us as Black professionals in an industry where we don't see a lot of persons looking like ourselves.
Nice. Jackie, I wanted to get your thoughts, as we always like to end these sessions finding out, what's a key takeaway? What would you want someone in the audience to really take away from our discussion today, or tips for success, etc.? What would you like to share?
Well, the one thing that I'd like to share with everyone is, in the industry that we're in, you want to be successful, but to me, I think the way that you're going to flourish is being authentic to yourself. I think it's very important when you're like I say, authentic. I think that's the time that you're going to flourish. So that's something that I would like to share. with the audience today and say that is key, is be true to yourself, be confident in your abilities, and don't stop, just go full forward, knowing what your potential is, and go forward. Thank you.
Tina.
I was gonna say the exact same thing. To me, being your authentic self, I think it's exhausting if you're trying to be two different people, right? And trying to appease and be somebody different than who you truly are, especially in the workplace. You spend a lot of time with people at work, and being your authentic self, letting people really know the true you. As Jack said, being confident in your abilities, going after what you want to go after, do your research, all of those things, reach out to whoever you have to reach out to make sure that you're forging the path that you want to forge.
Thanks. Avilia.
I would echo what Jackie and Tina said, but I will also add that, come out of your head. Don't overthink things, because if you think about, oh, my accent, or you think about, oh, they wouldn't get me, or my culture is different, or my experiences are different, as Jackie mentioned, authenticity is critical and important for your true self to shine through. I can't underpin enough, though, you're supposed to be able to produce exceptional work, because of course the bar is still high for us as Black professionals, and even higher, to be honest. Just do what you need to get to do. Continue to form those partnership and alliance within your organization, network internally and externally. And, everything is going to fall into place in the end, I believe, if you put together all those different ingredients.
Nice. Okay, I know we were talking about Black History Month at the top. Any special plans from your end for Black History Month?
So pretty much participating in all of the different activities in support of Black History Month here, definitely. So that's one thing, but also because to me, Black History Month is also a time that we can all take to learn about those people from the Black community who had such a great influence on our history, or who have been pioneers in their different areas. So I selected one for this year that I want to read on, and is called Cheikh Anta Diop. He's a Senegalese historian and also anthropologist, and he studied a lot about the human race's origin and also the pre-colonial African culture. So really to have an idea about what are my roots as an African, and really to understand where I'm going from, where I'm going to, right? So really making sure to read those. I have one already done, but there's another one, and those are pretty big books, so we'll see.
That's great. Thanks for that. Tafuma, is there anything that you'd like to share with our group today? Yeah, you're just on mute.
Yeah, there we go. I think if you're my age, you're young. At least I'm youngish, but if you're my age and young, I think there's a great need for you to look at the idea that you got to take advantage of all these opportunities. When I say opportunities, like right now, I'm fortunate enough to work for a company that allows me to, and pays for my CIP course. And I want to empower myself with the tools that allow me to make choices. And I think that is a big focus in what are you looking for when you're learning and searching and asking those questions, is what are the tools that allow me more choices? And yeah, that's my.
Great, thanks for that. And in the theme of just onwards and upwards, I threw the group this question, what are your aspirations? What are your goals? Give us some inspiration. Jackie, I'll put you on the spot.
My goals is, to continue to be a mentor for, the young professionals. Also to to be an inspiration as well for my grandchildren. I have several grandchildren, and they're, they are of mixed race as well. So, being a part of their lives and inspiring them, and, trying to, get them to be confident in themselves as well is what I want to do as well. And as far as, working with the Diversity, Inclusion, and Belonging Committee, I am a part of that, and I still strive to be a part of that and continue with that. And I'm also very interested in looking into some of the ERG and setting something up as well. So that's something as well that I'm looking forward to.
That's
Thank
great.
you.
Avilia, as co-host here and our DEI specialist, what thoughts or any words of wisdom for everyone today?
I believe, what I would like to share and, encourage is that all of us continue to be trailblazers, for Black professionals, continue to lay that ground for the people that would come after us, because someone created a path for us. Continue to let your light shine. We know we have challenges that still exist. But again, once we stay connected, once we, continue to be, as Jackie said, and I love your word, be authentic, and, just showcase to, I think, the people that will come after us that if we too have done it, it hasn't been easy, but we've laid a path for you. And so long as you align yourself with the right people, you could do it as well. It's not going to be easy, but it's doable and it's achievable.
That's awesome. That's great. Listen, I want